Of Rally Ireland 2007, the super special stage here at Stormont in Belfast. Now, we are delighted to welcome Billy Coleman to our studio here outside Stormont. Billy, the reason that you didn't join us at the start is you're actually driving that stage out there. Did I see in the 604 going past there?
Yes, and the conditions are actually quite good out there. It's a lovely, crisp, dry evening, incredible atmosphere, as everybody can see, and it's the most historic occasion.
Yes.
Sport-wise, politically-wise, every way you think about it, it's an amazing occasion.
What's most important now, I suppose, Billy, from the driver's point of view, is just what's going to happen on that stage. Talk to me about the stage. It's a tough little test, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's reasonably wide in all places, but you just have to be careful that you don't do what I did there, which is get the carb and have a little spin. But at 60 years of age, I think maybe one could be, yeah, fair enough. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long time since I had 500 horsepower under my right foot, Michael. So hopefully I might be forgiven.
These guys going around here are going to have a lot of horsepower under their feet, Billy. And as you said, just one little slip could put you in big trouble here.
Yeah, I think the way they'll be approaching it, any professional driver, is that you know, this is really the action starts tomorrow, and that they just be careful not to make any silly mistakes here. So, but I mean, it's a good test, you know. It's maybe 2.5 miles, but you know, it's a good test. Well,
that's the whole thing. And I heard Chris Meek being interviewed here by the public address earlier on, Shaun, and he was saying that very thing. He wants to, he wants to be sensible. He wants to be sensible all through the rally this weekend, obviously, but especially here tonight. You don't want to go and do something daft and put yourself out of the event.
Yeah, but like once the clock starts here, like you're going to be on it.
Yeah.
All the drivers is really fighting for them tenths of a second, you know. It makes a difference on the Sunday.
Sure, absolutely correct. Yeah, well, that's true. All right, then, before the action is about to begin, let's just take a quick look at the leaderboard in the World Championship, just to remind ourselves of how things are shaping up, because we have been talking about this. Top of the pile, then, is Marcus Gronholm, driving, of course, for Ford. He has that 4-point advantage over the world champion, Sebastian Loeb, in the Citroën. Mikko Hervonen there on the leaderboard as well, and Denny Sordo. They're two teammates at Ford and Citroën involved there as well, and I suppose a little bit down the leaderboard out of the equation in terms of the World Championship, I suppose, is everybody, perhaps except the top two guys, and as I said, it all could be decided here in Ireland this weekend. Okay, then, time for the real stuff to get underway. Now, for the only time in a rally, as we've been saying earlier, the competitors actually go head-to-head around a specially constructed circuit. And to take us through it right now, in the commentary box, are Peter Collins and John Kenny.
Yes, thank you very much, Michael, and very good evening, everyone. Yes, how wonderful it is to see the world's finest lining up to compete in Ireland in what is unquestionably the biggest international motorsports event ever to grace our shores, massive in terms of worldwide exposure. Well, the determination of those who have brought a truly great event to Ireland can only be commended. It's round 15 of the World Rally Championship, which begins with this super special stage here at Stormont. This sort of test designed specifically, I suppose, with spectators and TV in mind, a chance to get up close and personal with the WRC drivers and these mightily impressive World Rally cars. Alongside me in the commentary box this evening here at Stormont is John Kenny. And John, while we're looking forward to seeing Gronholm, Loeb, Hervonen, Solberg and the other big stars of WRC, Irish fans will also be keeping a close eye out for the progress of our own drivers, particularly the young guns who'll get us underway very, very shortly, Meek and Mikhail.
Yeah, they're going to run side by side, as Michael's been telling you. Normally in a rally stage you go off at 1-minute intervals, but here they're running side by side, but they're not actually physically racing against each other. They are racing for time. As you mentioned, it is Chris Meek and Gareth McHale, the first two drivers who lead us off this evening. Chris Meek out of the Subaru S12, which has brought so much success for Eugene Donnelly this year. Donnelly is driving the Fabia a little bit later on in the programme, but Meek out of that very fast S12 Subaru Impreza, alongside Gareth McHale in the Ford Focus. Now, Gareth McHale had all sorts of problems this year. He had a big off in Sardinia, went down a cliff face, and was very lucky that himself and Paul Nagel, the co-driver, actually climbed out of that car in one piece, because it certainly was a long drop down. It took him a little while to get his confidence back, but now he's back. He's won the Harvest Rally recently in Donegal. He says the car is up to standard now once again, the Ford Focus, the 06 car, and he's obviously hoping for big things tonight alongside this guy, Chris Meek.
Yes, 28-year-old Chris Meek from Dungannon, Northern Ireland, has been involved in the Junior World Rally Championship since 2003, so he certainly isn't short on experience. Well, a round of the World Rally Championship is rarely decided by the super special stage, but it can be significant if the finish is close. Remember, on any given rally, the drivers can compete over anything up to 360 kilometres of stages, whether it be on tarmac, gravel or snow and ice. And they can be close. What about Rally New Zealand this year? The gap separating Marcus Gronholm from Sebastian Loeb at the very end was, believe it or not, just 3 tenths of a second. An unbelievable gap after many, many miles or kilometres of stages. So, John, it may not be decided this evening, but certainly if the rally end is very, very close, well, tenths or seconds could be very valuable here this evening.
Well, we don't see it on our pictures here. You don't see it in your pictures there, but we can see it up to the start position, and the two drivers are actually in the starting gate now, Chris Meek and Gareth McHale. Temperatures, you see, is quite crisp night here, 7 degrees, 1.82 kilometres of the Stormont stage here, and the cars will go left and right as you see them coming down towards us here. And this is the start of Rally Ireland 2007, the penultimate round of the World Championship.
It's Meek against McHale, two of the hot young guns in Rally Ireland in 2007. Now they'll head off in different directions. Away they go. A magnificent start. High octane action for the next 45 minutes or so here at Stormont. So it's Meek against McHale, two highly talented drivers. Meek, of course, driving the Subaru Impreza. Gareth McHale in that Ford Focus WRC, around 300 brake horsepower at their disposal. Now, one of these drivers will set the benchmark. And, John, I suppose around this special stage here at Stormont, this is the opportunity for one of the young Irish drivers to really put it up to the best in the world.
Top of your screen, it's Gareth McHale. Bottom of your screen, it is Chris Meek. The first part of the special stage went up towards the Parliament buildings, then under the Korea Bridge, and then down the ramp once again before they turn to the left-hand side and head basically out of the spectator side. Then they will come back into our position once again, up and over the Korea Bridge and down towards the finish as well. But as we've been saying, this is all part of the rally. It's not the stage will determine the rally by any stretch of the imagination, but they want to set a decent time here, and the first man to set a decent time looks like it's going to be Chris Meek.
Yeah, Meek over the bridge and heading up the shorter part of this course now. So the gauntlet has been thrown down by Chris Meek, but McHale going extremely well in that Focus WRC also. They've got to keep it clean and tidy around here. It's a very, very narrow circuit, and we do expect to see a few of those bollards moved during the evening's action.
Yeah, Chris Meek is now coming under the bridge, and it looks like he's got the advantage because it's McHale who's going to actually come up and cross over the bridge, and it's Meek who's stopped the clock at 1 minute 31.8, and that's not a great time for McHale. He'd be disappointed with that. 1:37 for him, Gareth McHale, but it certainly was a good time for Chris Meek. I did say at the start that he's driving that Subaru S12, the latest spec S12 Subaru Impreza, which brought so much success for Eugene Donnelly this year. It's a very expensive car to keep, unfortunately, from the point of view. He's not been able to rally it this time around. Chris Meek started a very, very good time of 1:31 there, but a poor time, I must say, from Gareth McHale's point of view.
Just to look back at some of the action, and these two young drivers, they're really giving it everything. Chris Meek heading out on what is the longer part of the circuit initially, and when he returns, he over the Korea Bridge and then back up towards the... And it really was a wonderful effort, over 5 seconds faster, of course, than Gareth McHale on that first run. So Chris Meek setting the early bend.
Here's our second set of drivers. What's history between these two? Austin McHale and Andrew Nesbitt. Between them, they've got 7 Irish tarmac titles between them. Austin McHale's got 5, Andrew Nesbitt's got 2 against the Subaru Impreza. The time to beat is 1:31.8, set by Chris Meek, but Gareth McHale 1:37 dead, and his father would perhaps be a little confident of beat particular time, because that wasn't a good one beat. Our next two are in the start gate now. This is Tim Mcnulty in the Subaru Impreza and Gareth Jones in the Ford Focus, the Welshman.
Tim Mcnulty, co-driven this evening by Eugene O'Donnell, and alongside Gareth Jones of Britain is David Moynihan. David from Mallow in County Cork. Gareth driving a Ford Focus, but he hasn't really enjoyed the best of seasons this year. Previously, of course, he has piloted a Subaru WRC, but he's struggling just a little bit for form in 2007. So this is a real opportunity now for Tim Mcnulty to impress around this Stormont stage. 1.82 kilometres, 1:31.8, the time of Chris Meek is the time to beat. Okay, so away they go. Mcnulty against Jones in this head-to-head. Away they go. They head out in different directions, but when they come back to the Korea Bridge, that is when they take up the other position, as it were. So they do complete exactly the same course, just in case there's any doubt in your mind that it's a little bit unfair to one or the other. It certainly isn't. That's the way the course is designed. They complete exactly the same, but just at different times. So away they go. And Chris Meek certainly must be feeling quite confident at this point that he's going to hang on to that lead time for quite a while yet. It's going to be 30 minutes or so before we see the World Rally Championship leader Marcus Grönholm and his nearest competitor, three-time champion Sébastien Loeb of France in the Citroën C4. That will be a real competition. But as they were saying in studio a little bit earlier on, John, this is a place where they want to do a decent time. They don't want to do anything stupid, don't want to cause any unnecessary work for the mechanics, just leave it clean and tidy so they're competitive at the start of the first special stage tomorrow morning.
Gareth Jones at the top of your screen. Below, it's in the blue car of Tim Mcnulty comes up over the grey bridge, and he really slams the car hard over the grey bridge and down towards our comedy position now. And Jones, who's been here a couple of times this year, in fact, an all-Welsh crew along with himself and another driver this year who went to become the first Welsh crew, all-Welsh crew to work in a WRC event. He's with David Moynihan, as Peter's saying, an Irish co-driver. But he finished 9th in the Irish Tarmac Series this year, 5th on the Jim Clark, 6th on the Easter Rally. In fact, was on course for a sensational result in Donegal, while 2nd, but he rolled it last year, unfortunately.
So across the line they go. Mcnulty gets there just ahead of Jones, 136.3. It puts him into 4th position for the moment, but he'll slip down the order just a little bit as the big hitters enter the fray just a little bit later on. But it was a very good effort by Tim Mcnulty. But it's Northern Ireland's Chris Meek from Dungannon who leads the way on 131.8. It was the first lap of this Stormont stage, and what a super lap it was, and it's proving very difficult to beat. Just looking back at some of the great moments there, beautiful control there by Tim Mcnulty as he headed towards the finish.
Yeah, up and over the Crea Bridge and down towards the finish. It doesn't seem to be as slippy as perhaps Sébastien Loeb was suggesting earlier on. He said in his recce that things are quite slippy out there. Now here's Aaron McHale, seated number 22 in car number 26. That is the Ford Focus, the WRC 04 version of that. And also Kevin Barrett, car number 30 in the Subaru Impreza, the S11, one of the older makes, but still very much prevalent on the Irish rally scene. This is car number 26. Aaron McHale, the new national tarmac champion, and also Kevin Barrett alongside him. And this is our 5th run of the evening.
Yes, Aaron's had a great season, scored outright victories in Carlow, Cavan, Sligo and Kilkenny, the Ravens Rock Rally. And of course, one of the highlights of his season was his last stage victory over Patrick Elliott in the Subaru WRC by a mere second.
I think family honour at stake here, Peter, because Gareth McHale's time a 1:37, father Austin a 1:42.9. I think he'd be quite happy, Will Aaron, if he can actually beat both the brother and the father this time around.
Yeah, well, as you say, it's a big night for the McHale family. In fact, it's the first time in the history of the WRC that 3 members of the one family are competing. Gareth, Aaron, and of course Dad Austin McHale. And well, at the moment it's the younger member of the family who's leading the way, but he's in 5th position. Austin down in 8th position right now.
Kevin Barrett alongside Aaron tonight secured 3rd overall in this year's Dunlop National Rally Championship. He did Spain actually in 2006, his first World Championship round, and his nephew Ian is seated at number 69. Now Ian Barrett has been nominated 3 times for the Billy Coleman Young Rally Driver of the Year award, and he's been nominated again this year, so obviously he hoped to go one better and win it this time around.
It's McHale versus Barrett. Another all-Irish battle here at Stormont. Aaron McHale leading off in his Ford Focus WRC, co-driven this evening by Killian Duffy. Alongside Kevin Barrett is Barry Goodman. And while it's not a hard evening really for the co-driver, their pace notes still extremely important, because these rally drivers rely very much on the pace notes being called so they can maximize their speed through every single turn. And along these super special stages, it really is all about corners, getting through them as quickly as possible, with keeping control of that car, because there are many things that they can have a coming together with out on this track. So they've got to keep it tidy, but they've got to keep the time pretty close to that 1:30 mark. And so far, Chris Meek has been the fastest of all with that 1:31.8. Can either of these two get next or near it? Kevin Barrett and Aaron McHale just past the halfway point now. And there is young McHale. Nice control again through that tricky left-hander on the handbrake, across the Crea Bridge, down towards the finish line. And let's check on the time now. It looks very good indeed. Not there just yet, but coming around now, just one more circuit up towards Stormont Castle for McHale. And he's putting in a very good time indeed. But Chris Meek at 1:31.8 is proving very difficult to beat. And that was a small mistake there.
Yeah, just overcooked it there a little bit way to the left-hand side at Aaron McHale, as I say. I think he just would like to beat both the father and the brother. We'll see now if he can do so, but I think it's going to be one of the slower times, unfortunately. Barrett's come through in a 1:39.1. Good run from him, but McHale slips to 9th place, but he beats the dad, I think. Yeah, beats the dad. Just about 1:40.15 for Aaron McHale. But they got around safely, as the have been saying to us before the start of the programme. They really just want to get around this, because this is not where the rally is won and lost in earnest. It's a ceremonial stage. It's good for spectators. It's obviously very good for TV. But the real rally, the real stuff, starts tomorrow in Sligo.
Yes, it certainly does. And while this may appear to be a male-dominated event, I can tell you there are some ladies taking part. And John, a very special moment for Emma McKinstry, who's out next.
Yes, Emma McKinstry, seated number 56, but she gets her chance to shine in front of the television cameras here. There's the leaderboard. Meek from Mickelson 2.2 seconds adrift. Then Nesbitt, Mcnulty, Gareth, McHale, Jones, Barrett and Boland. That's our top 8 drivers so far. 1:31.8, very good time from Chris Meek. But Emma McKinstry in the Subaru Impreza A8, the first woman ever to drive a World Rally car on a World Championship event. Daughter of Kenny McKinstry, the 91, the 94 Irish tarmac champion. Only 2 women driving in Rally Ireland. Tony Kelly, seated at way down on 110, is the other one. But it's Kenny McKinstry, daughter Emma, up against Ray Breen, the former national champion.
Yeah, and a pretty poor start there, I think, by Ray Breen. But Emma McKinstry got away very well indeed. So Ray Breen losing a little bit of time off the start there. Unfortunately for him, Ray was co-driven by Damien Morrissey in that Ford Focus. So it'll be very interesting to see how Emma shapes up in this Stormont Super Special stage.
That was a very poor start, all right, for Breen, the former national champion. Won that in 2005, won Ravens Rock that year, his first major success, but it was a very poor start. So head-to-head here, Emma McKinstry is the one who got the jump on poor old Ray. Ray will obviously be anxious not to be beaten by the girl, but he's a lot of time to make up, because that was a very, very poor start.
Well, both having a few problems on this lap. The slowest time we've seen so far was that 1:42.9 by Austin McHale, and he certainly won't be very pleased with that. But once we see Austin out stages tomorrow around Sligo, well, he'll be trying to claw back the time that he has lost this evening. And of course, they have a lot more kilometers to cover tomorrow, so you know, if he is maybe 11 or so seconds adrift of the top time here this evening, that's something he will be able to claw back. But of course, we've yet to see the likes of Gronholm and Loeb, the Solbergs, Petter and Henning. So it'll be interesting to see how they perform around here, because I think that time is going to be difficult to beat even for the top WRC drivers. There is Emma McKinstry now making her way towards the finish line. Let's see how she shapes up time-wise. Looks like she's going to slip into the 140s. Yes, she certainly has. So waiting for them now to cross the line. And Breen, 1:45. McKinstry, 3.2 seconds slower on that occasion, so they go 11th and 12th respectively.
Well,
so
Ray did okay there. In fact, he had a very slow start, but he did get ahead of Emma at the end. But Emma, I think, will just be relieved to have gotten around the first, as I say, World Rally car driver, female World Rally car driver to enter a World Rally Championship round. They're a brute of a car. Kenny McKinstry's daughter Emma did extremely well to get hold of this car. She's rallied for the last couple of years, seated way down in 56, but the seatings have allowed her to be in front of the television cameras and get that run against Ray Breen.
So a reminder now of how it stands. We've seen 12 drivers in action, and Chris Meek from Northern Ireland leads the way with a magnificent time of 1:31.8 seconds. Andreas Mikkelsen of Norway, the 18-year-old, also proving very fast around here, 1:34 dead. Andrew Nesbitt currently in 3rd place. Mcnulty is at 4th, and then the first of the McHales, they're in 5th position. So Gareth McHale there in 5th, and just behind him, Gareth Jones. That's the top 6 as it stands, but the order going to change as this evening wears on. We've got plenty of Irish interest in the next few pairings out. We have Shaun Devine and Paul McLaughlin up against Darren Glass and Neil Shokes. They'll be up next, and they'll be followed by Noel McCarrick and Damien Connolly and George Tracy and Jane O'Connor.
looking forward to seeing George Tracy. In fact, he's out in this Peugeot 206. George is pretty much a rallycross man and a rally man as well. Has done a lot of the rounds of the Irish Rallycross Championship and indeed the British Rallycross Championship as well, along with the likes of Dermot Carnegie. But he's out in the Peugeot 206 for this particular event, and interesting to see how he goes. But a time from Chris Meek, which opened up our rally coverage here this evening. It's a sensational time, it really is, because Mickelson at a 1:34 is full 2.2 seconds behind him, and then Nesbitt's 4.3 seconds behind him. So when you consider that you know, Meek was the first one to start this proceedings, that really is a sensational time. Be interesting to see what the top boys do, the likes of Atkinson and Lapful and Henning Solberg and Sordo do, before we get to the big two, Loeb and Gronholm, who are going to be running side by side.
Yes, it certainly will be interesting. Every single ticket for this event at Stormont sold out well in advance of the evening. An attendance of around 11,500 rally fans. And of course, this going live right around the world. Many of the TV stations and countries that take World Rally more often than not tune in to the super special stages live. A little bit more difficult to cover a special stage live. It's a little bit more difficult, but of course a reminder that over the next 3 days here on RTE television, we'll be bringing you all the action from those stages in the northwest of the country. And the drivers who have been out on recce's since last Monday have said it's very, very difficult. And of course, John, one thing that the drivers aren't used to contending with, they are used to sealed surface rallies, but they're not used to the lumps and bumps that are on the Irish stages.
Yeah, Austin McHale said it this week that they wouldn't be used to the grass growing in the middle of the road either. That's Austin McHale's line. But here's the next two then in the start gate, Sean Devine and Darren Gass. Sean Devine from Strabane, winner of the Glens of Antrim Rally, the final round of the 2006 Pace Notes Northern Irish Rally Championship, finished 8th to Glen Allen, the 2006 and 2007 champion. Alongside him is Darren Gass from Market Hill in County Armagh, the 2003 Nova Challenge champion and junior champion in 2004 in the Peugeot 206 Cup. He's first run in the World Rally car at only 19 years of age, so we reckon that Darren is certainly a driver on the up.
So it's Sean Devine against Darren Glass. Sean, number 61, Darren, number 70, if you want to identify them easily. They both make reasonable getaways as they head out on this 1.82 kilometer stage. Just watch the action, listen to the wonderful sound of these WRC cars. We were listening to a very interesting conversation aboard the coach on the way to Stormont earlier on today with some of the top world rally drivers who are simply amazed at the number of WRC cars that were entered for this event. John, normally in many of the rallies that these top drivers go to, you might get 3, possibly 4 WRC cars along with the main entrance. Here in Ireland, there are a total of 36 WRC cars in Rally Ireland. It really is extraordinary. And I can tell you the top drivers were having a very interesting conversation about that. They couldn't believe that a country of this size and of this population would have so many WRC competitors. But rallying has been and still is a massive, massive event here. And they're hearing the crackle of those 300 brake horsepower engines as they fly around this very intimidating and very tight circuit. And we have to admire the skills so far, John, and let's not put the commentary curse on them, but so far everybody's kept it nice and tidy.
Yeah, you mentioned there about the WRC cars on Rally Ireland. There's 16 Ford Focus, there's 13 Subaru Imprezas, there's 2 Citroen C4s. One of those, of course, is of the champion, Sebastian Loeb. Citroen Zara, in fact 2 Citroen Zaras, the Skoda Fabia of Eugene Donnelly and the Peugeot 206 of George Tracy. So 36 cars, as you say, in total of WRC spec here in Rally Ireland.
Yes, the Impreza there of Sean Devine, the number 70 machine, and just alongside him on the picture there, number 61, Sean Devine, heading towards the finish. 141.3 for Devine, very little in it between those two. And you see there, when the time is close, obviously they're going to cross the finish line. Very, very close indeed, and they did, just 0.8 of a second between them.
Drops gas though down to 11th place overall, 1:42.1 his official time. Chris Meek still setting that standard of 1:31.8, and it's going to take a lot of beating, I think, but it will be up to the WRC regulars, the likes of Loeb, Gronholm, to set standards themselves. But that's a good time by Meek, and they thought, all and sundry, Irish rallying fraternity that is, that Chris Meek could really perhaps put it up to the big boys in a way that he might even edge his way into a top 10 position.
Some lovely sideways action there from Shaun Devine as we look back at that circulation from both drivers, and nicely over the Freya Bridge to finish. Ready to go now with the next pair. It's Noel McCarrick and Damien Connolly against George Tracy and Jane O'Connor. When I say against, they're not competing directly against each other. This really is against the clock. 71 against 75. And as we look down now towards the Freya Bridge, they're getting ready for the off.
Yeah, Noel McCarrick in the Subaru Impreza won the 2006 Abbey Hotel Roscommon Moto Stages Rally. Owns McCarrick Garages in Tubbercurry in County Sligo, and one of 6 Sligo men taking part in the WRC event here at Rally Ireland. In fact, it's the biggest proliferation of Sligo men ever to take part in a World Championship round. Against George Tracy, I think there's a problem there with George's car, unfortunately, and unfortunately, no, in fact, it is Tracy who gets away, so he'll be running on his own. There was a problem with Noel McCarrick's car. Now he's got going. McCarrick's car, the electric seemed to fail in it, unfortunately, and the car stalled at the start line. He is away, but he's gone away very slowly. But we are now looking at George Tracy in that 306.
Problems there for George Tracy as well, really, John. So unfortunately, neither of these two are going to get anywhere near the fastest time of the evening so far. Don't know whether it was a technical hitch there for Tracy, or whether it was just a mechanical problem, or whether just the nerves here at Stormont got to him. But unfortunately, both drivers not really getting any sort of performance worthwhile out of their cars on this stage. But as I said, over the super special stage, there's only so much time you can lose. And, well, if these guys are determined enough, they'll try and make it up in the 19 stages yet to come over Friday, Saturday and Sunday of Rally Ireland in the 2007 WRC. It's round 15 of the championship, the penultimate round of the championship, and we must mention to everybody who's going to follow our coverage during the weekend, even if you're not rally aficionados, a reminder that the World Championship could very well be decided right here in Ireland this weekend. Marcus Gronholm with a 4-point lead over Sebastian Loeb.
Tracy's going very slowly through this particular stage. Very, very slowly indeed. I don't know what's wrong with that particular car. He did get a good start. McCarrick didn't get any start whatsoever. McCarrick has actually just got over the Creagh Bridge and is coming down towards us now. But Tracy's going very, very slowly out there. The slowest time so far is Evan McKinstry's time of 1:48. And both of these drivers are going to be way outside it.
Yeah, John, obviously problems with the car. There's no way that he'd be setting these sort of times. Obviously encountering problems. Noel McCarrick off the start, and then George Tracy once he got into the lap. So across the line they come, and with those difficulties, unfortunately the time's not very competitive. 2 minutes 5 seconds for Tracy. And what about McCarrick now? Heading towards the finish line, and a further 9.7 seconds adrift. So rather disappointing outing for both of them, but not a lot the driver can do if the cars start giving you difficulties. And John, of course, most people who follow rallying will know that these WRC cars, apart from being extraordinarily powerful, they're packed full of technology. Anything can go wrong.
You know, this is, we can see at the start, just behind, you can see that George Tracy got a decent start, but Noel McCarrick didn't get any start whatsoever. But Tracy had a very poor run there. Something was definitely wrong with that car. You can see it there, nearly stalled. It looks like he missed a gear actually going into that right-hander, but it wasn't a great run by Tracy. This man normally rallies or rallycrosses the likes of the Metro 604 in rallycross rounds and historic events across Europe. Now we're next to in the start gate. It's Guy Wilkes, seated 14 in the Subaru Impreza, and Khalid Al Qasimi, seated number 12 from the United Arab Emirates in the Ford Focus. We're getting towards the big boys in the World Championship.
Now, we'll certainly be looking for these drivers to get into the low 130s. Khalid Al Qasimi, 35 years of age, from the United Arab Emirates, co-driven by Nicky Beach of Britain. And Guy Wilkes, 26 years of age, has had a very good season in the British Rally Championship. Second to Mark Higgins, who we'll see a little bit later on. So these two will certainly be aiming for the low 130s in these awesomely impressive Ford Focus WRC 06s.
Wilkes is currently second in the British Rally Championship to Higgins, as you mentioned, Peter, with Rally GB to come, 16 points adrift, and there is 20 for a win. So still all to play for in the British Championship, but Higgins we'll see a little bit later on.
Well, a slight delay for these two drivers, as there's a small problem at the start. It may be with the timing device, but the marshals will very quickly get that sorted out. So it's Khalid Al Qasimi in the Ford Focus RS WRC 06 against Guy Wilkes in the Subaru Impreza, co-driven by Phil Pugh. And as I said, Guy has had a very, very good season across the water this year. Very, very competitive and now trying to make the most of his WRC experience. He'll be no stranger to the sort of surface that they'll encounter over the next few days on these Irish stages. Whereas it'll be a different kettle of fish altogether for Khalid Al Qasimi. He's a driver of great experience, but hasn't really managed to make an impact on the WRC Championship so far.
He's only doing selective rounds, Peter, this time around. He's the Middle East Rally Champion from 2004. And the halfway stage of the 2007 World Championship, a joint venture between BP Ford and the Abu Dhabi Tourism Board was announced to bring a third official focus, WRC, to the team's World Championship campaign. And this is Khalid Al Qasimi, who will be doing not just Rally Ireland, but also Rally GB as well. On his debut in Rally Finland, Al Qasimi drove consistently to finish in 16th place overall. So he's in the top 20 anyway. We had a slight delay, something out on the course. That looks like it's been sorted, and we're going to get back underway again with Qasimi against Wilkes.
Well, we seem to have been mentioning it for quite some time, but Chris Meek was first out on course, and what an impressive time he has posted. 1:31.8 for the Northern Ireland driver, and he still sits top of the timesheet as these two now await the starting orders. Qasimi against Guy Wilkes.
Qasimi's in the Ford Focus, Guy Wilkes in the Subaru Impreza. Lights ablaze. Looks like they're going to get things underway very shortly indeed. The revs are up in both cars, and away they go. Wilkes against Qasimi, and they come down towards us now. Looks like a very good start for Qasimi in that blue car on top of your screen against Wilkes in the yellow Impreza at the bottom of your screen.
Well, a problem there for Qasimi, as you saw, top of screen, so he's in a little bit of trouble in the early stages of this very short stage, super special stage at Stormont, 1.82 kilometers. Had difficulty engaging gear there at some stage in the Ford Focus RS, so it looks like he's playing catch-up for the moment, whereas Guy Wilkes is really going for it in that Impreza. Beautifully controlled so far through every single corner, just drifting it out nicely, rather conservative through that left-hander there at bottom of your screen. That is Guy Wilkes of Britain, 26 years of age, against the 35-year-old World Rally Championship driver from the United Arab Emirates. So it looks as though he has a slight advantage at the moment, Guy Wilkes, and beautifully through that very tight left-hander.
Yeah, Al Qasimi doesn't seem to be attacking this course by any stretch of the imagination. And up over the Great Bridge comes Wilkes, and he really is throwing this car very heavily around this course. Going into that right-hander, as you mentioned at the start, Al Qasimi seemed to stall the car, didn't get much traction coming out of the corner, but Wilkes really is attacking this course. You can see in the sideways movements, the car slides out from under him away to his left-hand side. Wilkes, interesting to see what time he posts here. 1:31, don't forget, 0.8 is the best time so far by Chris Meek, and Wilkes, well, he's going to come close to that, I think.
Close, but not close enough. 1:33.7, that's a very impressive effort indeed. It should put him in, yes, it does put him into second place. Al Qasimi, well, both drivers pretty quick. Qasimi goes to 7th position in the order at the moment, but there you see, there was a slight problem for Al Qasimi off the start, and we've seen that on a couple of occasions, John. Not everybody getting the supersonic start that we expect, and there was another difficulty for the United Arab Emirates driver.
Yeah, he just didn't attack that corner, but Wilkes was the man who really was hell-bent on posting a decent time here. Good run from him. Pushes himself into second place now, 1:33.7 seconds. He's 1.9 seconds behind Meek. Now we got the next two drivers in the box as we watch Wilkes, and that was a rerun at the start there. We've got the next two in the box now, and here is the four-time Irish Tarmac Rally champion, Eugene Donnelly in the Fabia against Xavier Pons in the Impreza.
Well, if anyone can do it, Eugene Donnelly will certainly give it a very, very good try. The 40-year-old from Derry, co-driven by Paul Kiley from Sligo. And Eugene Donnelly, always very, very exciting to watch, and what a super record he has in Irish rallying. So with this machine, Eugene Donnelly should be very quick indeed.
He's not too sure about this particular car, Peter. The Fabia doesn't think it's quite right yet. He's had one or two national rounds to get used to it, but let's see how he does here.
So he's up against Xavier Pons, the 27-year-old Spaniard driving the Subaru Impreza for the Subaru World Rally Team, co-driven by Xavier Amigo. Guess what, John? He's Spanish.
But Donnelly in the Fabia would have liked, as I mentioned, to have the Chris Meek car under his foot this weekend. That's S12 Subaru Impreza. It's been owned by various different people, including the Reed Transport team, also by Donnelly himself, but it's just too expensive to run. So he's had this Fabia now for a while. Hasn't really run it in anger in many championship rounds, Irish championship rounds, but he decided to run it here in Rally Ireland. And well, he's not too sure about the car, but he's a man who's quick. He's a 4-time Irish champion, and he's just collected his 4th consecutive crown this year.
Well, as you said, John, not too used to the car, but it is an extremely impressive WRC car. He debuted it on the Fastnet Rally in Skibbereen at the end of last month, and he finished 2nd behind the Norwegian tenth sensation who we've already seen this evening, Andreas Mikkelsen. So that was a great drive by Eugene, and he'll have had a little bit of practice since then, you can be guaranteed. So it'll be interesting to see how his time shapes up now on this super special stage. 1:31.8, a reminder, that's the time to beat.
Donnelly at the bottom of your screen there in the Reed Transport car in the Fabia is heading towards the finish now, and will come under the Korea Bridge and down towards the start finish line. A 1:34.8 is the best time so far. I think he'd be happy enough with his time. Should be slightly slower than Pons. It is 2.6 seconds. Pons registers 1:33.3. And that should be enough for second place. 1:33.3 is enough for second place for Xavier Pons. Takes second place ahead of Wilkes by 0.4 of a second. But still, Meek out really on his own. 1.5 seconds the advantage he has. Here's the start again for those two drivers, Donnelly and Pons.
Yeah, it was a very good getaway by Xavier Pons, who's already scored World Championship points this season. Scored in Rally Finland. But he's going to have to work very, very hard to bring home the bacon in Rally Ireland. A very difficult ordeal for the likes of him with little or no Irish tarmac experience. It's still Chris Meek setting the pace, 1:31.8.
Matthew Wilson and Manfred Stroll of Austria, seeded number 5 this year. His first rally back in 1991. Over 100 starts, no win so far. He's currently 10th in the World Championship alongside Matthew Wilson, who won the inaugural Irish Rally Ireland 2 years ago when it was a pilot event. Currently 14th in the World Championship. He was 4th in Rally Japan. That was his best result after the fact that the likes of Gronholm and Loeb didn't finish. A real race of attrition it was in Japan. But here's our next two in the start gate. It's Wilson against Stoll.
Yeah, Stoll, 35-year-old from Austria. He's a former Group N world champion in 2000. As far as the World Rally Championship is concerned, well, his best championship result came last year. He ran to 4th in the world standings. So Manfred Stoll, a driver of no mean ability.
Stoll at the top of your screen, Wilson at the bottom. Stoll will come under the bridge and down towards our commentary position here. Down the hill he comes, and he'll turn right at the bottom, and away he goes on his first run to the bigger of the two loops here, the 1.8 kilometre track at Stormont.
Yes, Wilson, of course, son of the famous Malcolm Wilson. And Matthew had a magnificent result in Japan just a couple of weeks ago. He came home in 4th place, his best ever result in the WRC. And as we saw on that event, John, we had some of the big hitters, including Gronholm and Loeb, drop out. And Matthew Wilson, well, singing his praises. The old commentary curse has worked once again for poor old Matthew. He's had a problem down there, and he's lost a lot of time, so his time is not going to prove competitive. So what about Manfred Stoll? It really is down to the Austrian now, yet to win a World Rally Championship round, despite his excellent finish in the standings last season. So let's see now, and Stoll beautifully through that. That's the real rally driver's skill, to take those hairpins at speed, carry momentum through as they swing it through the very, very difficult tight hairpin. And let's see now how his time has shaped up. I think it's good enough for a 3rd spot. Yeah, Stoll 1:33.3. He goes to 3rd. Wilson, unfortunately, with that problem in the early stages of that lap, he goes down to 18th position.
I think he had a major problem there. That car, I think, maybe stalled and nearly came to a finish. That would have been a disaster for the British driver Matthew Wilson. We mentioned he's not going to win rally in the first stage, but he certainly can lose it, and it would have been a disaster if he didn't finish, because his rally would have been over. It got a good start, but he seemed to have a problem with the car midway through his run. But it's still Meek who leads. on a time of 1:31.8. Pons now into second on 1:33.3, and Stahl equal with him on 1:33.3 as well, 1.5 seconds adrift. And the next two are in the starting gate. This is the big boys, Chris Atkinson and Jan-Matti Latvala.
Confirmation of how it stands on Rally Ireland Stage 1. Chris Meek leading the way from Xavier Pons. Manfred Stoll there, who has just gone into third place. Wilkes is fourth. Mickelson in fifth position. Eugene Donnelly in sixth. Andrew Nesbitt is currently seventh. And it's Tim McNulty in eighth position. Gareth McHale is currently ninth. And then Qasimi currently in 10th place. So now more of the big boys are out, John.
Yeah, car number 8, Chris Atkinson is out there, the Australian in the Subaru Impreza. Alongside him is Jari-Matti Latvala in the Ford Focus. It's been said that he's got a major part of anatomy. He's bigger than any other parts of his body. He really is a man who likes to throw the car around, and he's a very, very quick driver, is Latvala. But Chris Atkinson, he was here last year for the candidate event for Rally Ireland. He's driving for the Subaru Impreza World Rally Team alongside Peter Solberg, while Jari-Matti Latvala is driving in the Stolbert Vodka King team. That is run by the Wilson outfit.
Chris Atkinson. The notes are being called by co-driver Stefan Prevost for Jari-Matti Latvala, the 22-year-old Finn. Notes being called by Mika Antila, another Finnish co-driver. And what a job it is. Probably the job for the most insane people in sport. It's okay being behind the wheel, John, but calling the notes, well, I'll tell you one thing, you need to be very, very brave indeed.
Absolutely. I sat beside Gareth McHale last year on the shakedown stage in Mullockmore, and I can tell you launch control is something else. He's never experienced it before. But we're with the big boys now. We will have Henning Solberg and Daniel Sordo, the number 2 in the Citroen team, coming up very shortly. Mikko Hirvonen and Peter Solberg, they're lining up against each other. And then the big 2, Sebastian Loeb against Marcus Gronholm. But we're concentrating now on Chris Atkinson against Jan-Matti Latvala. Best time, 1:31.8. Can the big boys beat Chris Meek's time? 1:32.0 and 1:32.5. Meek still leads. What a surprise.
Well, you know, John, there are quite a few people in Irish rallying who do expect an awful lot from Chris Meek. And, well, there's every chance that he could achieve something very special this weekend. He really has started brilliantly. I know it's only a super special stage, but, well, he could very well achieve something special if he continues to show this sort of form. We must remind you that, of course, the best finish by an Irish driver in a World Rally Championship event, well, you have to go back to 1985, and he's the gentleman sitting in studio with Michael Lyster and Shaun Gallagher, Billy Coleman, of course, who in 1985 achieved a 4th place finish.
Here's the next 2. These are in the top 10. It's Henning Solberg. It's Peter's brother. He's out in the Ford Focus, another member of the Stobart VK Motorsport Ford Rally team. Alongside him, Daniel Sordo. He is Loeb's teammate, Sebastian Loeb's teammate, and he's out in the C4. In fact, one of the previous rounds in Catalonia, he actually got the Zara back out again, but here he is back on the World Rally scene in Rally Ireland in the C4. Henning Solberg against Sordo. Sordo has yet to win a round of the World Championship. He is a protege of Carlos Sainz, the former Spanish World Champion. Henning Solberg, the Norwegian, against Daniel Sordo, the Spanish driver.
Danny Sordo, 24 years of age in that Citroen. He is expected to do a job this weekend for his teammate Sebastian Loeb. That job is to try and keep him between Loeb and Gronholm and try and reduce the number of points that Gronholm can score, and he certainly is capable of doing it, Danny Sordo. His best finish, 2nd in the Monte Carlo Rally, and he also finished 2nd in Spain, so he knows how to compete for those podium positions in 2007. He really is an excellent young driver, co-driven by Mark Marty. Plenty of experience on the pace notes for him as they set off on this lap.
Yeah, sort of at the top of your screen. It's Henning Solberg at the bottom. He is now on the bigger loop away from Parliament buildings, while it is Sordo who's trying to set a time which is better than Chris Meek of 1:31.8. Let's not forget, the first man out here this evening was Chris Meek alongside Gareth McHale, and he set that blistering time of 1:31.8. I was expecting that the quicker WRC boys would be breaking into the 1:30s, but not a bit of it so far. Atkinson and Latvala didn't break the timing being any time quicker than Chris Meek the last time around. What these two boys do?
Well, so far they look very clean, tidy, and very quick around there. Beautifully through by Danny Sordo through that left-hander. And he sweeps out to one of the faster parts of the circuit. And the brakes now once more as he negotiates this right-hander, really going for it in that C4. He wants to make a good start to Rally Ireland and again try and achieve a podium finish come Sunday evening. Over the ramp he goes. Let's check on the time. I don't think he's going to do it. 1:32.7, a great effort by Sordo. He goes to 4th in the Citroen C4. Henning Solberg, 9th fastest.
Well, how good is that run by Chris Meek? It's just looking better and better and better with every passing car. Sordo couldn't do it. Solberg couldn't do it. Henning Solberg, that is. That's amazing stuff from Chris Meek. He must be looking on at this and saying, how on earth am I as quick or quicker than anybody else? But it is a good car. It's the S12. This, as you're seeing in front of your screen, is the Citroen C4 of Sordo. As Peter's been saying, he's the man who's going to try and help his teammate Sebastian Loeb to the world title this year. He'll try and ride shotgun, get himself in between the likes of Gronholm and Nico Hirvonen, who is Gronholm's teammate. So here's the times once again. Meek still leads. Chris Atkinson in 2nd place, but Meek's time blisteringly quick.
Really is very impressive, and could we have asked for a better start to Rally Ireland? Most of the fans at Stormont this evening will tell you so far, no. They'd certainly love to see one of their own top of the timesheets at the end of this Stormont stage, but still to come we have Mikko Hirvonen and Petter Solberg, one of the most exciting drivers in the World Rally Championship and a former World Rally Champion. Then it's the big two coming up very shortly. Sebastian Loeb of France, 3-time World Champion. Marcus Gronholm, who of course is a 2-time World Champion, and he is gunning for his 3rd title this season. But he'll have to defend against Loeb as we watch Hirvonen now and Solberg head out.
That's the Impreza at the top of your screen and the Ford Focus at the bottom. And it is Mikko Hirvonen who's in that Ford Focus. Petter Solberg, the former world champion, as you mentioned, all right, Peter, back in 2003, has criticised his Subaru team for not actually taking part in any Irish Tarmac Championship rounds this year. They say he didn't set the car up right, but he's very concerned about the fact that the car will not be competitive this weekend. The likes of Loeb has been here, Gronholm has been here, in fact Sordo has been here, and Hirvonen as well, but the Subaru team were not. So it'd be interesting to see what time he can set in this car. And by the way, this is a year-old car. It's an 06 Subaru.
And you can see the aggression with which Petter Solberg drives absolutely beautifully through those first few corners. Slightly tidier below Hirvonen in that Ford Focus. I'm just keeping an eye on that top screen because you always expect something very exciting from Petter Solberg. He really is brilliant to watch as he makes his way around this 1.82 kilometer circuit to open Rally Ireland 2007. Brilliantly through there. Look at that for car control from Petter Solberg. Wonderful to watch. Now, can he get close to that time of Chris Meeks? 1:31.8. It looks like a very good lap from this vantage point, but we're not getting split times. So, well, we're seeing what you're seeing, but I can tell you this looks good. Beautifully through that left-hand hairpin. Wonderful control by Petter Solberg and across the ramp in the most impressive fashion. Oh, no, he misses out on it. 1:32.2, and Hirvonen was quick as well. Just 0.3 seconds slower. Magnificent effort by both drivers, but Petter Solberg only goes 3rd, and boy, John, did he give it everything on that lap. Chris Meek is proving a star. Look at Petter Solberg.
Petter Solberg, he's the star. He's the man. This is the people want to see. That is Petter Solberg in the Subaru Impreza. He is the man. It's just a pity he doesn't have a competitive car underneath him. It's an 06 car. It's just not quick enough anymore. It's underdeveloped. The next time they're actually going to start developing a Subaru is in 2008, and that'll be ready in 2009. So basically, if he's staying with the Subaru team, he'll have a car that hasn't been developed for 3 years, and he's still, neither of them, quick enough to take the lead. Chris Meek still leads. That's an incredible time. Now, here's the big two. It is Sebastian Loeb against Marcus Gronholm. 1 and 2 in the world. There's 4 points separating them in the World Championship race, and it could be decided here on Rally Ireland. One more round to go after this in Rally GB. But these are the two the crowds have come to see. Sebastian Loeb, number 1 in the Citroen C4 against Marcus Gronholm, number 3 in the Ford Focus.
These are the superstars of world rallying right now. Sebastian Loeb, they call him the Michael Schumacher of rallying, and that name is quite justified. World champion 2004, world champion 2005, Yes, world champion 2006. He's currently just 4 points adrift of Gronholm there, who's nearest camera, and away they go. Now these guys, no matter what's at stake, there is never any holding back. You'll see the very tidy style of the C4 there of Sebastian Loeb, whereas Marcus Gronholm, he likes to sling it around just a little bit more, but it looks like Loeb has got off to a brilliant start to this circuit.
And you know what, Peter? If neither of these drivers beat Chris Meek, Meek looks like he's going to win the stage, because we're then into the group end and the production drivers. This is the last of the really heavy hitters in the WRC cars. At that time to beat 131.8. Could we have an Irish driver leading at the end of day one of Rally Ireland? But you'll never know with these two. These are the two best in the world.
They certainly are, and just look at the driving style and the contrast in style. Absolutely magnificent control. He really is such a tidy but yet fast and efficient driver, Sebastian Loeb. That's why he is and has been the best in the world over the last few seasons. He's also a former world junior champion, but he really is immensely talented. But let's not underestimate Marcus Gronholm. He knows the title is at stake this weekend. He could very well win it in Sligo on Sunday, and that's what he has come here to do. He wants to win Rally Ireland, but look at Loeb go in that C4.
Yeah, both drivers have been here this year. Gronholm won Galway, the International, in the early part of the year. The Citroen on the bottom of your screen, driven by Sebastian Loeb, won in Donegal. Also won the Cork 20 recently. The time to beat, 131.8. They're coming up to the finish line now, up and under the Crea Bridge. These are the best two in the world. Have they beaten the time of Chris Meek?
Looks like Gronholm has it. Marcus Gronholm does it. A magnificent effort by Gronholm, 130.8. And Loeb, well, look at that time. Just marginally faster than Chris Meek at 131.7. 131.7 for Loeb, whereas Meek's time was 131.8. And at the very end, although we still have cars to come from the Group N class, but as far as the WRC drivers are concerned, Marcus Gronholm draws first blood here as he beats Sebastian Loeb by just 9/10 of a second. And let's keep in mind once again, John, that down at Rally New Zealand, well, it was just 3/10 between them at the end of the entire rally.
That was an amazing, amazing rally. I saw the other day, actually, in replay. It was a fantastic rally. 0.3 of a second, as you say, between those two drivers. And, well, Chris Meek, I think, at the start, he would have bitten your hand off if he was third place at the end of the opening stage. But it's Gronholm who leads Loeb, and we have two more drivers now in the start gate. And we're into